Well, here I am, and you're probably wondering why I'm holding a pair of shorts in my hand. You don't need to worry, I've not had a washing disaster and shrunk all my clothes. But as we think about the first line of the Lord's Prayer, Our Father in Heaven, it occurred to me that at about the same time I was wearing clothes like this, I was learning those profound words, Our Father who art in heaven. And yet, at the same time, I was using other quite ridiculous phrases like, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Little did I know then just how much words would hurt. And I was also saying things like, my dad's bigger than your dad, when it came to arguments. And even as I said it at a young age, I kind of knew that I was scraping the bottom of the barrel, really, when I was saying those kind of things out loud. Fascinating, though, that some people never seem to grow out of that kind of language, even when they're in charge of nations. But these really are quite profound words at the start of the Lord's Prayer. We might think about how there's a massive contrast. Our Father, something so intimate and close to us, who art in heaven, something so otherworldly and far away. And yet that first line holds those two things together as we begin that prayer. Of course, those words are given to us by Jesus, who invites us into his own way of praying. The disciples said to him, Jesus, teach us how to pray. And in response, he said, when you pray, say this, Our Father who art in heaven. Which just goes to show how ridiculous it is to say, my dad's bigger than your dad, or my God's bigger than your God, or my religion's better than your religion, when at the heart of what we're saying is this is the God of the whole world. The first 11 chapters at the beginning of what we call the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, are, if you like, whether you believe they happened or not, they're most definitely an exploration of what is humanity and how does it live in relationship with God. And it starts with one person, Adam, and then traces it through to include the whole world, before it then, at the start of chapter 12, begins with one person called to be the start of a nation, to explore the same kind of themes through the rest of the Old Testament. But in those first 11 chapters, it explores two things. The first is how we're all in this together. That's why the flood, all the stuff with Noah and his ark comes. It's when people forget that they're connected to other people and just live as they choose as individuals. Not so, says God. But alongside this concern with the universal, with the fact that we're in this together as the whole of humanity, there's also a concern for difference, for particularity. That's what the story of the Tower of Babel is all about in Genesis chapter 11. When people who are in power try to eradicate what makes people different and distinctive, again, God says, not so. And somehow God holds together that universality and that particularity, that similarity and that difference, that unity and yet our diversity. And all of that is being expressed as we pray, Our Father in heaven. Not just me praying it, but you praying it, and people all around the world, all through the ages, praying the same prayer, united as people whom God has called to himself and given this language, given these ties of being in this together with all of our differences, with all of our diversity. It's an amazing thing to reflect on, how people of different languages, of different ethnic backgrounds, are all united in saying these same words. When I changed the Lord's Prayer, the version we use at the church I'm in now, someone said, you know, this modern version, Our Father in heaven, they're not the words Jesus would have used, you know, as if the old one, the traditional one, was said by Jesus in a thick Aramaic accent. No, people all of the time are praying it in their own mother language. It's incredibly powerful. But this language of father, of God as father, can sometimes make us trip up because perhaps our experiences when we were wearing these of fathers or mothers weren't very positive. But of course, that language isn't given to us. And we're not invited to use that language because of those experiences. We don't import our understanding into those terms because of what we've experienced in our lives. No, it's the other way around. God defines language like love, like light, like fatherhood, and explains to us what those things are all about. Anything that we express to other people through our different relationships is a reflection of all of that kind of stuff. Not a definition, but a reflection of it all. Sometimes it's imperfect, sometimes it comes quite close. Other times it's very distorted indeed, perverted even. And yet, God still gives us that language with an invitation to allow Him to reshape it, to define it Himself, in order that we might understand something of the relationship that He longs to have with us. This God who is far away in a different reality in heaven, and yet dares us to pray something so intimate to Himself as Father. What a fascinating way to begin a prayer, then. Holding together this cosmic stuff with this intimate and personal stuff. This stuff which is about our links around the world, our shared humanity, and yet also somehow includes all of our differences and diversity as well. And so I dare you, whatever age you're at, whatever you're wearing clothes wise, whether you're still in shorts or whether those days are long behind you, I dare you to have a go at praying this prayer, which begins, Our Father, who art in heaven. And tomorrow we'll explore a little bit about what comes next.